Hello, Christelle Robinson-Tiedemann here, aka I'm a certified human design analyst and life coach, and this is HD Thursday. HD Thursday is a weekly human design learning segment inside my Collective Perspective membership. This monthly membership community is all about internal self leadership. It's centered on the art of contemplation and human design experimentation. We practice bringing the unconscious into the conscious and live intentionally in alignment through lived experience. Welcome. I'm so happy to see you. Let me know who's here on this wonderful Thursday evening. This is the beginning of a long weekend for those in the United States. So I'm going to say a preemptive happy July 4th. On that note, if you hear very loud noises in the background, it's probably the millions of fireworks that are going to be tested tonight. And there's nothing we can do about that. But say hi as you're coming in. Welcome. If you would like to pull up your chart as we dive into our topic for today, I highly recommend that you do that. You can go to the description box right here. If you scroll down in the description box, I have a link to my favorite chart generator. Go there, take a minute, grab yourself a drink. Sparkling water it is tonight. Sparkling water in a fancy glass. Grab yourself a beverage. If you're anywhere near I am in the world, it's freaking hot. Get yourself something nice and cold and pull up your chart. So just fill in all of your birth information. You're going to need your exact time of birth, your birth date, and the location. Pull that up and pull up your chart. We have an exciting foundational topic today that I'm really excited to get into. And I would love to know who's here. So just say hi in the chat if you are signed in so you can actually be in the chat and we will get started. So for today, our topic, how each type conditions the world. This is some really solid baseline stuff that you're going to want to dive into. Now, if you have questions coming up at any point throughout the live, just drop it into the chat. And I'll host some time at the end. So if you guys want to ask some questions and we can talk about stuff further, feel free, drop your comments, drop your questions, any point. This is very informal. I'm a fourth line. We're all about the friendliness and the friendly vibe in the network. So I love when this is an interactive conversation. So we are diving into how each type conditions the world. Okay. What the heck is conditioning? So if you have dabbled at all in human design or truly at this point in the world of personal development and spirituality and personal growth, you've probably heard this term before. It's not that different from that from a human design perspective, with one special addition. So what is conditioning? From the human design perspective, conditioning is the process of taking on energy, beliefs, and behaviors of others, causing you to override your natural energetic design. It occurs when your mind, or undefined or open centers absorb outside influences, leading you to live according to societal, cultural, or familial expectations rather than your own truth. So, one thing we know, if you have been following me at all, I say it over and over again, one of the main teachings of human design is that your body holds wisdom and your mind is here for the ride. Your mind is here for fun. Your mind is a great teacher for others, but it is never a decision maker for the self. So human design teaches you to listen to the wisdom of your body, not your mind. Why? Our minds are often conditioned, okay? But there are layers, as we can see, to conditioning. We just said societal, cultural, familial. And We're not going to get into all of the layers of conditioning. We could dive into that truly for days, and maybe we will break it down into different segments. But what I want to talk about today is the base layer. And that is that natural conditioning and influence that each type has on others simply by vicinity. So simply by being in the presence of another person, just their physical presence conditions us, and also their behavior. So to make this even clearer, if you have your chart pulled up, as you can see that the human design body graph is made up of different centers, right? There are 9 centers. Your type is determined by which of these centers are defined. Whenever in your chart you see an area that is not colored in, so that section is just white, or if you're a reflector, every center is not colored in. Those areas are called undefined or open centers. Whenever we have an open center, so I have six open centers, 5 open centers. So there are 5 different areas where when I'm in the presence of another person, I have the potential to be absorbing and amplifying their energy if they're defined in that center. So wherever anyone is open, they will absorb and amplify the energy of another defined center. Okay? So simply what this means is simply by being in the presence of another person, you are being conditioned, or you are conditioning. So one that sometimes is like, whoa, to a lot of people is like, think about your children. So mom is conditioning baby, period. Like there's nothing, this is far beyond my parents taught me these lessons, or this was the culture in my family, or this is my culture. Before that, simply the bodies around you growing up, you're conditioning each other in your family. Okay. So this is what we're going to talk about today. This is different. So to clarify, this is different from, so when I'm talking about how each type conditions the world, this is different from how each type experiences being conditioned. Okay? That's a whole other conversation. And we could definitely do one per type, like a different HD Thursday on generators manifestors conditioning. Like what I mean is, like, for example, manifesting generators, let's say, so manifesting generators have a lot of energy and they don't do things in a linear pattern, but due to conditioning from the outside world, that non-linear way of being when a manifesting generator is growing up is often seen as wrong. And so they often grow up with the conditioning that people just need to tell them what to do. Just tell me what to do. A lot of manifesting generators have been conditioned to not think their way is normal or good. You're scattered, you're ADHD, you're this, you're that. And so just tell me what to do. That's the conditioning that they experienced. Or for example, a manifestor. Manifestors are 9% of the population, and manifestors have initiation as their superpower, but they have a repelling aura. And that repelling aura actually causes a lot of manifestor children to be experienced by others as like, can't be trusted, what's going on. So they are often in a group of kids, they'll be the ones who are considered like bad or like wrong. They're told often that they're in trouble. They get in trouble a lot, basically, as children, simply because people don't understand or the experience of their aura, that repelling aura. And so manifestors often find themselves in trouble more than any other type as kids. And because of that, a lot of manifestors are conditioned growing up to be people pleasers. So they become very people pleasing as a result because they don't want to get in trouble. That is how a type experiences being conditioned. What we're going to talk about today is how each type naturally conditions the world. Okay? Drop any comments in or questions in. I want to make sure that this is clear. So, there are 4 types. Yes, well, there are 5 types, but 2 of those types are really under the same mechanics of one type. They're the generator and the manifesting generator. Generators and manifesting generators are both generator types, okay? So the mechanics, their aura, it's all the same. Their strategy, it's the same. They do operate a little bit differently, but in terms of what we're talking about today, they're the same. So let's start with generator conditioning. How does the generator condition the world? Well, generator types are generator types because of what? You should probably all know this by now. The sacral center, the sacral. Generators are generators because they have a defined sacral. What is the sacral? It is this engine that's just going and going and going and going, just like any generator, like a generator in a garage. It's an engine that just goes and goes and goes. And it provides consistent energy. As a result, the generator type is here to put that limitless energy that they have the potential for into things that they love. And so, generators are our doers of life. And so, without even trying, let's say me, projector Christelle, does not have a defined sacral. A manifester who does not have a defined sacral, a reflector who has no definition, in the presence of a generator, on layer 1, at the first level, we now have a defined sacral. And so that energy we are now absorbing and amplifying. So simply by vicinity, simply by being in the presence of my husband, he is conditioning me with this energy to do this energy. It's like it got turned on and now I have this added energy to do. That's baseline conditioning. On top of that, because generators are 70% of the population, the majority of people that you're running into are generator types. So for a generator, it is normal to have a lot of energy to be doing the things that they love, a lot of movement. A lot of generators, just like literally that energy is physically movement through their body. And so where do we get this idea? Where do we think we get this idea that doing is better than not doing? If you're laying around on the couch, it's laziness. Relaxing, how many people in the world simply feel guilty for relaxing? Period. This is generator conditioning. This is the biggest conditioning that the generator has on the world, is that doing, that it's better to be doing all the time. That because and this is the exception, is that, if it's something that they love, but if a generator really enjoys their job, that 8-hour workday is made for them. It's made for them. So when people are struggling, to work a full 8 hours, and the generator might be like, that's easy. I can go I'll add on an extra 4. It's like, oh, you're better than, oh, you're more focused than. We have this idea that it is better to do more. More is better. Long hours we call a good day's work. That was a good day's work because you spent long hours. Why can't a good day's work be 2 very efficient hours and the rest of the time you're laying on the beach? Sounds like a good day's work to me. But that is the generator's way. And so the major conditioning that the generator has on the world is this influence of doing and going being superior. So this concept of a lot of projectors feeling lazy or being considered lazy. It's that generator influence that doing is more important and that doing is better. So this is probably the most common influence that people are aware of. And again, as generators are 70% of the population, we can understand why. So from a baseline level, to recap, as soon as any type that does not have a defined sacral is in the presence of a defined sacral, that sacral is now turned on. That energy is now turned on. And it becomes very difficult to know when enough is enough. So, for example, when I'm in the presence of my husband who has a defined sacral and I don't have a defined sacral, it is really hard for me to know when enough is enough. I can really push myself past my limit and end up freaking exhausted. This is when I'm like past tired, overtired, exhausted, because I thought I could do it. When I'm out with my friends, my generator friends, and we're out in an evening and it's like, we'll go to one more place. We can go to one more place. We'll stay out later, because I'm riding all that sacral energy, not realizing that my body is depleted, that I'm done. I have hit my limit, but it gets really hard to feel when enough is enough because I have absorbed and I'm amplifying it. So I'm like, often like, I've been known as the life of the party pretty much my whole life. I don't have a defined sacral, but I'm real good at amplifying that energy. I also have a gate defined in my sacral center. It happens to be gate 14, and gate 14 is all about like loving passionately the thing that you do. I passionately love this stuff. Human design, personal development, inner work, spirituality, like this, I live and breathe it. I do it for free. I did it for free before I did it paid. Like I love it. And so when I'm in the presence of my husband and now that center is turned on and I have access to that gate 14, I can get really, really, really into what I'm doing, and I can just keep going and keep going and keep going. And I have to be very conscious to like check in with my body. Okay. So generators, they are conditioning society with this doing is better than not doing, this go, go, go energy. It's better to be moving. We hear a lot, and I'm not saying that exercise isn't good, right? So we all know that no movement, of course, that's not healthy. That's definitely not healthy for anyone. But a lot of the cliches that we use in society, this is homogenization. It's not true that the same amount of movement is good for everyone. Rest is very important for a projector. Rest is very important for a manifestor in their rest cycle. So how often as a child was a manifestor or projector child lying around, naturally following their design, getting the rest that they need, and a generator parent by no malicious intent is like, no, you got to move. Come on, you just got to move. You got to go. No laying around. Laying around's no good. And we're homogenized to think that this is the way it is for everyone. But actually, it's harmful in the other direction for a non-energy type to not get the rest that they need. If you saw my husband and I, you zoomed out and just watched us throughout the day and the way that we move, it's incredible to see the drastic difference. And he can just go for a walk, come back, go for another walk, then move all around the apartment. That like the movement is just so natural and so constant. And I will have a spurt of movement. Yeah, I'll go for a walk with him. By the time we're halfway through, I'm ready to come back. By the time we come back, I'm on that couch and you're not getting me off. But that is what's healthy and natural for the both of us. Okay? So that was generators. Is this clear? Are we getting this? Drop any questions at all that you have inside of the chat. I never even checked to see that you guys can hear me and see me. So, drink break. I just want to make sure that the sound and everything is good. Anyone's welcome to let me know that if you want to beat me to it. Haha, we're good. Okay. That was generators. That's the biggie because 70% of the population. So this is where we got this idea of moving, going, doing, the more, the better. Everything's about productivity. That's another thing I should have mentioned. That's such a big influence, the way that generators influence the world. This idea of productivity, like producing more. That is a massive generator conditioning. And that's simply because generators are builders. They are the builders of society. So it makes sense because that is satisfaction for a generator. If they're putting their energy into something, a project, an idea, a task that they love, that building, that is like beauty for them. And so just simply by having more generators, it's like, well, this is the ideal way to be. The rest of us without the sacrals are there now, forcing ourselves often to move past our limits, beyond our body's indications that we are tired, that we need rest, that we're exhausted. And truly, more is not necessarily better. Okay, next, manifestors. And I'm doing this in the order of what I think societally we see more of, or you'll understand more of. Okay. So, manifestors. We did generators. That included generators and manifesting generators. Now, how do manifestors condition the world? Manifestors, my teacher likes to call them actioners. Manifestors are only 9% of the population. But if we go back in our histories, there was a time when manifestors truly ruled the world. This is the king and queen archetype. Manifestors are the initiators in humanity. If we use an analogy for humanity as a car, manifestors are the keys in the ignition. They are the spark. If we had a bonfire be an analogy for humanity, manifestors are the spark that starts the flame. So they are the initiators. And mechanically, how that is because you are a manifestor if you do not have a defined sacral and you have an energy center, a motor in the body, and there are 4 motors. So excluding the sacral, because if you had a sacral, you'd be a generator. So a manifestor is someone who does not have a sacral defined, but they have any of the other motors connected to the throat. The throat is the center of expression, action, doing. Bringing into life. So because they have a motor connected to the throat, they initiate the ideas they come up with, what they want to do. There's nothing in their way. They just move straight into doing. And so where did Nike get their slogan? Just do it. Manifestors. That is manifestor conditioning. Just go for it. Just do it. The association with initiation and power. We have this association with initiation and power. If we think about initiation and masculinity, there's like a whole intertwined thing there, which makes it very challenging for other types who are masculine presenting, male. Sometimes that initiation can feel very different, but it's glorified in our society. And then people think there's something wrong with me. Well, Only 9% of our population are actually true initiators. The rest of us need to respond. The rest of us need to wait for the invitation. The rest of us need to wait a 28-day cycle. Okay. So that just do it, that go for it, that power in just taking what you want. Like, think of inside of business, in the business world, right? In the finance world, like that idea of like you take what you want, you go for it, you grab it. Like, this is all very manifestor energy. But that's only 9% of the population. Nevertheless, because if we go back far enough to the olden days where kings and queens ruled the world, so literally the archetype was manifestors ruled the world and they enslaved the generators to build their kingdoms. So this conditioning is still within us, and it's a very powerful conditioning because the manifestor is here for impact. That is what manifestors are here for. They're only 9%, but everything that has ever been started in our society and humanity is initiated by a manifestor. So that influence is very powerful. Interestingly enough, what I love about human design is that human design actually demonstrates duality so beautifully. But a lot of times when we're talking about, we often not even just speak, but we act in cliches in our lives. Like, how many times do you, like I gave the example before of, the poor projector kid lazing around because they need rest, and a parent just being like, nope, you got to move. Movement is better. We know that movement is better. Or just the recommendation of like, oh, you want it? Just go for it. Like, we share this advice. This advice is passed down, not just simply by the physical influence of being around a manifestor. So again, remember, there's two ways. There's physically the auric influence of being around a certain definition that's going to have an influence on you. And then there is the actual behavior and the way that we're taught. We say these things, we do these things, but we don't actually know where they're coming from. So often, how many times people have been given the advice, just go and ask for the raise, and it just blows up in their face. You know what I mean? If they're not actually following their strategy and their authority in how they do it. Okay, so as I was saying, interestingly enough, human design actually demonstrates duality beautifully, but this is these aren't the parts that the general public are aware of. But inside of the system, you can actually see that a lot of these cliches can be challenged. So the manifestor type, yes, it is the most powerful type in terms of when a manifestor is on a creative high. They can move faster, more intensely, be doing more than any generator type, even a manifesting generator. Like, the high of a manifestor is incredible power. But that same being that has conditioned the whole world, has conditioned just do it as such a massive influence in our society. They are also the type with the lowest low of energy. So when a manifestor is done with their creative spike, when they're finished with their creative cycle, they crash out, and they have rest cycles that can last for a very long period of time. It's different per manifestor. But in that same being, so the most powerful being, the most energetic being, also needs the most rest of all the types. And I think that's actually a topic that I want to do another time, but the duality, or the cosmic joke, the contradiction inside of each type, because duality is such a beautiful topic that I love to talk about inside of my community, in my coaching, because that is the reality of life. Life is duality. But in conditioning, we often forget that. Conditioning is often like always, never. It's often just unconscious passing along of ideas without actually understanding that we are all different, we are all unique, and what sounds good might not actually apply to the individual. So, recap: manifestors. How do manifestors condition the world? With just going for it, initiating, taking what you want. If you want it, you just get it. That kind of energy is manifestor conditioning. But truly, that type of initiation is only for the manifestor. Every other type has a different strategy, and there is some waiting or other pathway involved in between their going for it. Okay? Is this clear? Is this making sense? Do you have, what type are you? And I want you to think of the manifestors in your life if you are not a manifestor. If you're a generator, if you're not a generator, think of the generators in your life and just recognize how what's natural to a person. It's going to be so easy for that person to think that everybody's like this, but everybody does it like this. But I just got it, it can be really tough for a manifestor parent that, let's say a manifestor parent that hasn't been conditioned out of their initiation. And I mean, like, truly to a certain degree, they can't be, because a manifestor is going to do what they want one way or another. It's just they either are going to be sneaky about it, or like they have to complete their urges, So a manifestor parent with your projector child, maybe even specifically like manifestor dad with your projector son or your generator son who needs to respond or needs to wait for the invitation. It's like, just go for it. You just grab it. You just do the thing. And that can lead to a lot of not self behavior and a lot of not self experiences in that person's life, because the result is not going to be ideal. The result is not going to be in alignment with them. And what's going to happen is that type starts to think there's something wrong with them. So a lot of people think that there's something wrong with them simply because they don't have this kind of like go for it ability inside of them. Okay. That is manifestors. All right. Projectors. Now I have a funny story to tell you. So projectors, we are the type, I am a projector. We have a penetrating aura. Okay. That's what makes projector. Projector does not have a defined sacral. They do not have a motor to the throat. And we have a penetrating aura, meaning we can see things that other people can't see. We can feel things that other people can't see. We kind of cut right into the heart and soul of the other. We can see right into their G center, which is the center of love, direction, identity. So we are the guides of humanity, because we can really see what is kind of blocking other people on their own path. And if they are interested in our wisdom, they ask and we share what we see. So projectors have this very strong ability to see into the other. But projectors also have a massive weakness that we do not see ourselves very clearly. Projectors do not see themselves very clearly, but they do see the other very clearly with their penetrating aura. So, funny story, I got the idea last week that I was like, ooh, this is what I want to do for HD Thursday. That's fun. We're going to do how each type conditions the world, especially because I'm thinking about how much experimentation I've done with myself and deconditioning I've done with myself growing up thinking I was supposed to be a generator and being completely freaking burnt out. And then I got to projectors and I was like, wait a minute. How do projectors how could we don't condition the world. We don't have that. So I get on a conversation with my human design teacher, and I had two questions. And I said, let's start with my first question. My first question was about a new client that I have. And I'm working with this client I am an IFS coach. So I do parts work. That's a huge part of my coaching practice. So I'm an IFS, internal family systems informed coach. So I'm doing parts work with a client. And while we're doing this internal dialogue with one of her parts, she just kind of abruptly stopped. And I remember feeling like in my body, but I stayed present in the session. I guided the client said that it was excellent. Like she felt fantastic about it. But afterwards, I was like doing all this questioning of like, oh my gosh, but like we could have gone deeper or there was more or like, what happened there. And so I came to my human design teacher and I was telling her about this experience. And what we came to was the conclusion is that especially for manifestor clients, this was a manifestor client, it's really important that they lead themselves, and I'm aware of that. Manifestors don't like being told what to do. And manifestors, oftentimes they have the answer inside. All of us have the answers inside of us. This is the truth. But the way that you guide a manifestor as a coach, it's just unique. It's very unique. And so we came to the conclusion that let her lead. So if that was the abrupt ending of that interaction with that part, so be it. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm like, intuitively, I kind of felt that, but I also felt like this part of me was like, no, let's keep going. So I said, okay. And so here's my second question. I want to do this segment on my weekly YouTube lives. And I want to cover how each type influences the world. But I can't figure out what projectors are. I don't know. I'm totally blanking on that. She said, well, the way that projectors condition the world is you always want to find the answer faster. Huh. You mean a little something like I did with my client or like I experienced with my client? That first question? Yes, precisely. But, of course, projectors, as we don't see ourselves as clearly as we see others, I was like, yes, that makes perfect sense. I knew that. Of course I did. So, projector influence, and I'm sure my husband can speak to this for days on end. Because of that penetrating aura, because of this, it's not just a fascination with the other. Like our literal electromagnetics is focused on the other. The existential question of the projector is, who are you? Who are you? That is the question that's pretty much running in the background of our being for all other people. And so we influence and we project onto others, we condition others with this need to figure things out faster, need to get to the answer faster, need to go in faster, uncover faster, deeper. That is our influence. So it's kind of like this dog on a bone kind of attitude in terms of figuring people out and figuring out the next steps. But as we know, a projector, their strategy is to wait for the invitation, because that guidance that we have, it is only beneficial when someone consents for it. It's only beneficial when someone actually asks for our wisdom. That is when projectors share their guidance. That is when they share it's in alignment for them to share their guidance. So when a projector has not waited for the invitation, when a projector has provided unsolicited freaking advice, which we do all the time, it's part of our experimentation, it's this pressure on the other person. It's like, not every problem needs a solution, truly. But for us, it's like, well, did you try this? And did you try that? And then what about this? And what about that? Unless it's invited, people don't want to hear that from us. So it's very natural, because for us as the projector, I can tell you, is this resonating? I'm getting stars and hearts. So for us, it's like, but I can see so clearly where the block is, but I know exactly what you need to do. It's just helpful. It's genuinely coming from this loving place. It's genuinely coming from a helpful place. But the truth is, not every problem needs to be solved. And as I'm sure every single person can speak to, we need to carry ourselves through things. There are also some like bumps and lumps along the road in our lives that are actually an aligned part of our experience. You've always been an intuitive one. Oh, thank you. Sending love. Who is this? Hi, Lioness Starcy. Lauren, is this you? Ah! Hi, honey. Sending so much love back. So it's coming from this loving place, but like the pathway that we go on in our lives, this is, you can't tell someone else how and when they're supposed to solve their things, how and when they're supposed to fix their stuff, what actually is a problem. If it's not a problem for them, it's not a problem, and so everyone has their own process, and that needs to be respected. But I can genuinely speak for myself, especially with the story that I just told you. I didn't even realize that I was doing that in the moment that I was asking, what is the projector's conditioning? Our conditioning as the projector, because we are naturally trying to guide the world, is to be like, we got to figure this out. We got to figure this out. Well, we got to figure this out. We got to solve this faster. We got to get to the root of the problem faster, instead of allowing others their process. Okay. Is that making sense? My husband's probably jumping up and down if he's listening to this. Yes, I am aware, babe. I am aware. So that is, we have covered the generator, how they condition the world. This is where we get doing is better than not doing. This is where we get, if you're not moving, you're being lazy. If you're not being productive, you're being useless. When I think it's $1 billion industry at this point in the spiritual and the health world, finally understanding how important it is for us to have work-life balance, for example, for us to have rest, for how much adrenal fatigue. Like this is how much we have misunderstood what respecting our body's limits are, and how the kind of dynamics of what good energetics are. It's not just doing for the sake of doing, it's doing in right alignment. Manifestors, that's your just do it, the initiating, the going for it, that you just, if you want something, you just take it. If you want something, you go for it, you grab it. This is the same energy of, like, honestly, in this day and age, in the social media world, the sliding into people's DMs, like, I'm not saying it's bad in general. What I'm saying is this use of it across the board is so out of alignment. For some people that works really, really, really well. But for a lot of people, that just initiating, that just going for it in your face, is actually the complete opposite alignment for them to get what it is that they want. Super curious about my shifts in the HG system, since so much astrology has shifted. Yeah. Oh my gosh. This is such a powerful time for downloading a transit app. My Mechanics, MAIA, I believe. I think I'm spelling that right. My Mechanics, that's a great app to download to see what the transits are. And we're also going into the shift to 2027. That's a whole nother other conversation. We can get into we'll do transits one day. It's not my most knowledgeable area for sure, because the type of human design that I am mostly interested in is people's personal fulfillment. So I'm really interested in personal alignment, and that's following your strategy and authority, understanding your definition, understanding your aura, your profile, like really what the ins and outs of your day, walking in alignment. That's where my heart and soul thrive. But I'm also a massive nerd, and so I'm deepening my knowledge continuously, especially since my certification completed. Like, we're just going deeper and deeper and deeper, and I'm a part of many communities, and I have the greatest human design teachers behind me. Shout out to Tressa Rivera of Human Design Hypnotherapy. She's the best. Okay, so generators, manifestors, projectors, this need to solve the problem, this need to go deeper, this even insistence on figuring it out faster and before someone even has deemed something a problem necessarily, and often without consent. But that push to figure things out, which I am 100% guilty of, and partially I can't even help it because that is how my energy is operating, right? And that penetrating aura, there's nothing that I can do about that. But there is the aspect of where I'm actually not being conscious that I'm really heavily influencing someone around me without, if I'm not following my strategy, heavily influencing that person around me to kind of, solve or figure out a question, find the answers faster, and kind of considering that the more that people try to figure things out, the more that you dive in, the better. And I'm glad that I made this into a business for myself because I truly love it. But the truth is that is completely up to each individual person, and everybody has their own process. But that is the conditioning that the projector puts out into the world. And our last type, reflectors. I put a little pop quiz on my Instagram at Coaching with Cree if you want to follow along and dive into more human design and other inner work topics. I put a pop quiz on my Instagram, and I asked, which is the unicorn type that does not operate at all like the rest when it comes to conditioning? Well, the answer is the reflector. So the reflector, they do not condition the world in the same way, and they are not conditioned by the world in the same way. So the reflector has no definition in their body. So when you pull up a reflector chart, it just is white. You will see the little lines, the red or the black lines, the short ones, that will show you that they do have gates defined, and kind of what Lauren had just brought up, talking about the astrology right now. And so that refers to the transits, which means the planets' positions in the universe. And when, depending on the positioning of the planets in our solar system, certain gates and centers are lit up in all of our bodies. So some of us are all generators sometimes, and you might notice, you have to pay attention, but you might notice that for no reason, and you might not even be around anybody, you're a non-energy type, meaning you don't have a sacral, but you have more energy than you ever have. Your sacral is probably being defined by the transits in that moment. So that's happening all the time. And so for a reflector, they are being defined by the transits, and specifically the moon. But they don't have any defined actual colored in centers in their chart. And as we know, what was the first baseline way of conditioning? Physically. Literally, your definition, when you're in the presence of someone who has a center open, they are absorbing and amplifying your energy. There isn't any of that for the reflector. So there is no definition for anyone to absorb and amplify. Okay, so that's the first line, where they're not conditioning in the same way. The second way that they're not being conditioned in the same way is by the reflector aura. And the reflector aura is called sampling. It's closed in a similar way to the manifestor in terms of like it is dense and saturated. If you want to think of a wet sponge, so if you think of a wet sponge, not squeezed out, like it's soaked, there's nowhere else for the water to go. That's kind of similar to the way that's how a manifestor's aura is. But the reflectors is a little bit similar in terms of it's denser, maybe not as dense as a manifestor, but it's denser and it's sampling. So because they're completely open, they're meant to take on the energy of those around them. But because of the density of their aura, they don't hold it. So it's like a sample, it's like a taste. They take on the flavor. So when a reflector is in front of you, they become pretty much your design. They are a reflection of you. So when you're interacting with a reflector, you're very much getting a mirror of your own self. That is what you're getting. But they're not taking on that energy in terms of they now remain that. When they are away from that person, or even when a reflector becomes very, very aware, they become separate. It's kind of like they can taste it and kind of release it. This is that sampling energy of the projector. So because of their very special definition and their very special aura, they don't absorb in the same way and they don't condition in the same way. Where it becomes concerning, and this is where we would get into, as I said in the beginning, how a type is conditioned, not how a type conditions. So how a type is conditioned, where reflectors often struggle is in general finding it difficult to be aware of who am I? Who am I? Because they're that person in front of mom, they're that person in front of dad, they're that person in front of their sibling. They go into the classroom, they're sampling all these different energies. It becomes very difficult for them to find themselves sometimes if they don't start to learn about alignment, if they don't start to learn, for example, to take a lot of space for themselves. The only time that a reflector is not absorbing energy to a certain degree is completely alone. Completely alone. Nature is so healing for reflectors. So a lot of reflectors live out in the wilderness for this reason, for good reason. But that would be a conversation for another day. But as our final type, reflectors do not condition the world in the same way because they do not have consistent definition, and they are not conditioned in the same way because they have a very unique aura. So after doing this topic, I definitely want to dive more into conditioning in its other layers. But I would also love to start maybe an HD Thursday series of like how each type is conditioned, right? But before that, I think I want to do just a base series on each type, period. So I would love to know if like people are interested in actually any topic that you guys would be interested in. You can type it into the comments underneath the live. Anyone listening on the replay, if there's something that you really want to dive into on an HD Thursday, you'd like to discuss, go deeper into, I would love to know. So share it in the comments. You can share it in the chat. But I think what I would love for us to do is to do a series, a per type series. So like we can dive into the basics, the foundations of a reflector, and then it would make sense what their conditioning is. And we do that on a different one. Synergy between types. So do you mean like what is the relationship like with like projector generator, generator, manifesting generator? Like what is that? What is the energy like between them? Yeah. Okay. That's a cool topic. I will definitely write that down. Or even different gates. Whew. We could do that. I'd have to like really narrow it down because I mean there's 64 gates, right? And each one has the potential to make a channel. So do you mean like what happens when one person has like one side of the channel, and another person has another side of the channel, what that means? That's called electromagnetics. Or in any way that these different channels interact. So for example, like if my husband has a full channel and I only have one gate, what is that relationship like when someone has like only half, or someone has half and half, or if someone has the full channel and someone only has half? Is like that, is that what you mean? Kind of, yeah. Because there is okay, yeah, something along those lines. Yeah, I could definitely do that, and that's really really interesting stuff. um and it's like more complex stuff, so I'll find a way to for us to like break it down where it won't get like overly technical. But yeah, that's very very interesting stuff because that is literally what chemistry is, right? Oftentimes when one person, and you should definitely check out the last HD Thursday where we talked about the myths, the human design myths, because a lot of people are under the impression that there's like an ultimate design for any design, and that is not a thing, because you don't know a person's life experience, and we are not, as we're talking about conditioning, you have to take conditioning into account. So nobody is just purely their design. We are our designs, but that doesn't mean that we're operating as our designs, right? And when it comes to interacting with another person, that is going to come into play. But what Lauren's talking about that's so fascinating is like chemistry. And so oftentimes when one person has a channel, so let's say the 1-8 channel between the G center and the throat, one person has the one person has the 8, they complete a channel together. That's called chemistry, and that's literally how it's experienced. When we talk about like you have chemistry with another person, oftentimes that is what's happening. They have like an electromagnetic channel between them. But interestingly enough, when people have that kind of chemistry, it can make you really like that person. It can also make you detest that person. Chemistry works on the other end. That saying, it's a thin line between love and hate. This is from a human design perspective, this is very true. So it's still chemistry. It's kind of like you're kind of fixated on that person, but you're fixated on them in terms of you can't stand them. So it does have an effect on the relationships. And this is when people get into composite charts. So that's when you do a reading with like you and your partner's chart or a friend's chart. My coworker and I, we've done our composite charts, and then all the coworkers in our office, we've done the charts. So yes, that is a topic that thank you for that suggestion. That's something that we can get into. But I would also really like to have a nice set of basics down, so that we can kind of deepen our conversation over time. And this is very much for my collective perspective community, because we continue these conversations in our group. And so I want to really set a nice basis for everyone so that we can like go deeper into these things, but you can understand, or at least I can refer you to a different live for you to get the foundations. But I think that it would be a great idea to dive into each type. And so then we can really talk about how each type is conditioned, because my goal, my passion is that this changes your life. I love to geek out on all of this stuff, but truly, like personally, I'm doing this for all of you. I'm doing this for the interest. I'm doing this for my membership, but I'm also doing it for me. And my passion is that this actually helps you to walk in alignment. This helps you to live in alignment in your life. Like this literally improves your life. This improves your relationship with your children, with your partner, with your coworkers, that this brings fulfillment inside of you, that this tells people where there's nothing wrong with you. It's just how you're designed, where it like gives people the freedom to be themselves. Like, this is really what I love. This is where my passion lies, is that all of us can set ourselves free to be ourselves, because the truth is us in alignment is not only leading to our fulfillment, but it's actually how you best influence the world. So your best way to condition the world is by operating in alignment and allowing for others to operate as themselves. And this is an ongoing process. This is an ongoing process. This is why human design experimentation is what we call it. You try things out, you figure it out one step at a time. It's not about perfection by any means. And our own lived experience, having these conversations, reflection, contemplation, this is how we become more and more authentically ourselves, and then more and more impactful to those in our lives, those around us. Yay, I hope that was educational for you. I hope that really made a lot of sense. Again, if you have any more questions, toss them into the chat. And if there's any questions that come up if you're watching this on the replay, you can put them in the comments. I will be happy to get to them. And if you want to dive deeper into this, if you really enjoy these hangouts, if you like these conversations, if you're shy and you want to ask one-on-one questions, or you want the space to be able to talk back and forth in an unlimited way, or just with more privacy, join my Collective Perspective membership. This is exactly what we do inside of the membership. This is all about your personal alignment while also learning from others and sharing with others, so that we can expand our own contemplations and our own personal reflections, have a safe space to share, have a safe space to ask questions, come for help. Like, it's just a community where we get to truly live our alignment out loud, and the ups and downs of that. It's not a thing where you just take a class and then it's like, I'm aligned. I've been doing this for going on 5 years, and I am still very much in my experience, in my deconditioning process, very much in my deconditioning process. But I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for every single layer and every piece of experimentation that I've done, all the trial and error that I've done, all of the inner reflection and contemplations that I've done, all the questions that I've asked, all the being vulnerable and sharing, and then hearing back from others like, me too, like, oh my God, it's not just me. Like, this is part of the process. And I am also a huge fan of making inner work fun. Like, nobody wants to do this if it feels like work. At least I don't. And I have changed and elevated my life on so many levels while having a really good freaking time all along the way. So if that is something that's interesting to you, the link is in the description box. We are currently still in our founding members pricing of only $44 a month. So this is a great freaking time to jump in. And everyone who is a new member gets a preliminary human design reading with me. So it's also a beautiful opportunity to take advantage of getting a human design reading at a ridiculously low cost. And you can leave at any time. It's a month to month. Stay as long as you like, go whenever you like. But you get to keep the price that you come in at. So if you come in at 44, the price goes up to, 77, and you leave, you come back, it will be 77 now. But if you're still in, you're grandfathered in at 44. So whatever price you come in at, as long as you stay, that is your cost. And our community is growing so beautifully. It's my favorite space to be. All right. Thank you for hanging out with me on this beautiful Thursday evening. I will be in a different environment next time you see me, guys. It's so exciting. Hubs and I are moving, so woo, I can't wait to show you. There'll probably be boxes everywhere surrounding. It'll be a mess, but we'll make that fun too. And I will see you next Thursday with a new topic. All my love. Happy July 4th, USA. Happy Canada Day to my Canadians. Yesterday? Yeah, that was yesterday. Wow, that felt so long ago. Oh, I was such a proud Canadian yesterday. Happy Canada Day. Happy July 4th. I love you guys. I will see you next week. Ciao.